This glaze is called金砂美人醉. It was created in 2002, and according to the ceramic experts who examined it, nearly impossible to duplicate.
But to understand why that matters, we must go back over 300 years. This glaze has multiple names in Chinese ceramic history, which can be confusing. Let me clarify them before we go further.
The original glaze is called 美人醉, which translates as drunken beauty. It's also called 桃花红, or peach bloom, or peach blossom red. Both names refer to the same glaze. Western scholarship tends to use peach bloom. Chinese ceramic tradition uses both interchangeably. The Qing dynasty Kangxi imperial kilns produced ceramics roughly between 1662 and 1722, and they created one of the most celebrated and technically demanding glazes in Chinese history, the peach bloom glaze. Nigel Wood, in his comprehensive study of Chinese glazes, described it as a copper-based glaze showing blushes of red, occasionally dotted with fine green spots on a pinkish-red ground. The glaze sometimes gives the impression of delicate blushing skin, sometimes of ripening fruit. The chemistry behind it is extraordinarily complex. The red comes from copper oxide under reduction firing. The green spots, visible as small turquoise dots on the surface, emerge when tiny areas of the glaze oxidize slightly differently during cooling. The balance between these two states is almost impossible to control deliberately.
Researchers believe the Qing imperial kilns achieved this using copper-lime pigments sandwiched between clear glazes, applied by spraying through silk-covered bamboo tubes. The technique was so specialized, so dependent on the precise atmospheric conditions of the Jingdezhen imperial kilns, that when the Qing dynasty ended, the technique essentially disappeared.
Wood notes that few fine works with the peach bloom glaze remain. Experts and scholars have for years researched and discussed the kiln transformation method, without achieving a major breakthrough.
My grandfather spent years studying the original Kangxi peach bloom glaze. Not to copy it, but to understand the underlying chemistry. He attempted to recreate a glaze that had been lost for over 2 centuries. By 1983, he had done it.
This piece from 2005 is an example of his 美人醉, his drunken beauty peach bloom glaze. Here, you can see the flowing bands of copper red and turquoise, as well as the characteristic dripping effect where the glazes meet at the body. You can also see the characteristic pink blush on this piece. But look carefully at where the white meets the red on this piece. You can see the copper green beginning to emerge, exactly the phenomenon the Qing imperial kilns were trying to control. My grandfather didn't just recreate the surface appearance, he understood and reproduced the underlying chemistry. His books document that he mastered 美人醉 in 1983. That achievement alone, recreating a lost Kangxi imperial glaze, would have been a significant contribution to ceramic history. But 19 years later, he went further. In 2002, he published the 金砂美人醉, Gold Sand Drunken Beauty, also called the 金砂桃花红, Gold Sand Peach Bloom. It's the same naming convention as before. 2 names, 1 glaze. The prefix 金砂, which means gold sand, distinguishes his innovation from the original. Now, what did he actually do? He introduced gold sand particles into the firing process, suspended within the glaze chemistry, at temperatures exceeding 1300 degrees Celsius under reduction atmosphere. The gold sand creates that distinctive granular texture you can see in both the red and green areas. His own book describes the difficulty plainly. Gold sand peach bloom is even more difficult to produce than peach bloom. To incorporate gold sand into the same work compounds the level of difficulty greatly. As such, this glaze would be nearly impossible to duplicate. Place the 2 pieces side by side, and the differences become visible. The 美人醉 piece on the left, fluid, painterly. The copper red and turquoise flowing organically. The 金砂美人醉 piece has the same underlying chemistry, but now with that granular gold sand suspended throughout the red areas. It has a different surface quality, more complex, more technically demanding. This piece was made in 2010. Look at the red blush portion, and you'll notice the distinct gold sand rather than the white from before. As we rotate the piece, you'll also see the glaze has crackles spread throughout the piece. This is an intentional technique to create a decorative finish that enhances the depth and luminosity that the original peach bloom never had. This third piece from 2007 is also Jingsa Meiren Zui, the elongated teardrop form with the narrow neck. My grandfather worked in series, exploring the same glaze innovation across multiple forms. The opening of the vase still has the distinctive peach bloom blush, but the horizontal banding here is more pronounced than the globe form. As we move down the piece, the transition zones between copper red and turquoise read almost like geological strata. The gold sand is clearly visible in the upper red section near the narrow neck, and there is a distinct transition to the deep copper green portion of the piece. As we get to the bottom, you'll see more gold sand texture blooming from the base. In 2005, my grandfather was invited to exhibit at the Chinese National Art Museum in Beijing. During the exhibition, representatives from the Beijing Palace Museum approached him. Would he donate one of his Jingsa Meiren Zui to their permanent collection? He said yes immediately. He wrote about this himself in an essay dated August 20th, 2005. A formal donation ceremony was held at the Palace Museum. Cultural officials attended. He described feeling that donating to the nation was the proper aspiration of any artist. 3 years later, in 2008, a Jingsa Meiren Zui was selected for the VIP room of the Beijing Olympics venue. The same glaze innovation that began in a California studio was displayed at the world's largest stage.
Nigel Wood writes in the book Chinese Glazes that few fine peach bloom works remain, and that experts have attempted without success to recreate the technique. My grandfather didn't just recreate it, he improved it and donated a piece to the Palace Museum. And somewhere in Taiwan, more pieces await.